They said the uniform is the same for everyone. White shirt, bottle green skirt, long white socks, black shoes, same hostel, same meals, same bed frame, same school anthem. But Anulika knew, even before her father's Okada turned into the school gate, that nothing was really the same. It was the way the guards glanced at them, that tired, dismissive glance people give when they've already decided where you fit. It was the way her father parked near the shrubs instead of near the other parents with shiny cars. And it was the way the girls in sunglasses barely turned their heads as her father carried her Ghana must go bag on his shoulder, his faded slippers slapping softly against the pavement. Anulika did not say much. She just held her small nylon bag in front of her like a shield. Her father dropped the Ghana must go bag just outside the dormitory and wiped his forehead. The sweat had gathered under his cap, and his shirt clung to his back. "Stand well," he said, adjusting her collar. She smiled, shy and uncertain. "I'll be going," he said. Then after a moment, he added, "You're here now. You will be fine." He turned, walked away, and didn't look back. Anulika watched the back of his head for as long as she could before her eyes began to sting. She quickly rubbed her face and turned towards the building. The dormitory was painted cream and green, freshly painted, too clean. It smelled like Dettol too, but not the kind in her bag, the expensive kind, the one in art, the one rich people probably use in their homes. Inside, the beds were lined up in twos, upper and lower bunks. Most girls had already arrived. There were suitcases on the floor, boxes on the bed, water flasks placed like trophies at the corners. Anulika stood there for a minute, unsure of what to do next. Then a voice said, "Are you looking for your bunk?" She turned. The girl was light-skinned, with glossy braids packed into a ponytail and clearly gloss on her lips. Her eyebrows were shaped in SS1. "I'm looking for bed D3, Anulika said, holding out the slip of paper they had given her at the registration office. "Oh," the girl said, looking her up and down, not harshly, just assessing her. "Bed D3 is near mine." Anulika dragged her bag to the third bunk in the second row, the bag scraping the floor. A few girls looked up. One even wrinkled her nose. She tried to ignore it. Her mattress was thin, wrapped in a plastic nylon. She set it on the lower bunk, opened her bag, and started unpacking quietly. She brought out her wrapper, 3 shirts, 2 skirts, plastic hangers, and a bar soap. She placed each item carefully, folding them with the same attention her mother had taught her at home. Neatness was a type of dignity, her mother always said, but no matter how carefully she folded, her belongings looked very different from the others. While other girls arranged lotions and creams in colorful pouches, hers were in small transparent containers. And while they whispered about their family vacations outside the country, she listened quietly, pretending not to feel like a furniture. "Is that your wrapper?" a girl near the window said, her voice loud enough for others to hear. Anulika didn't respond, but she knew the question wasn't a question. It was a reminder. Your wrapper is old. Your skin is dry. Your slippers are worn out. You are not one of us. Dinner at St. Geraldine's Girls' Secondary School was at 6. The dining hall was massive. It echoed with noise and clatter. Girls carried their plates in their hands, with some serviettes folded neatly inside. Some held bottled water between their arms. Some laughed like they owned the space. Others, like Anulika, just looked for a table where no one would chase them away. She found a spot near the end of table 5 and sat down. The meal was rice and beans, very soft and hot. She liked rice and beans, but the moment she brought out her spoon, she noticed the girl next to her shifting away. Anulika's spoon was short, silver, and bent slightly at the tip. The bag had black burn marks from the time it fell into fire at home and had to be rescued with pliers. The girl next to her placed her own long stainless spoon beside it, and the difference was loud. Someone passed a tin of sardines round the table. Anulika waited for her turn, but it stopped before it reached her. No one said anything. They just skipped her. She finished her meal quietly. Then she wiped her spoon, wrapped it in a tissue, and slid it into her pocket. That night, as lights out echoed across the hall, Anulika lay on her mattress, staring at the net above her. It sagged in the middle. There was a hole near the edge. The corner kept slipping from the window hook. She tied it again with part of her wrapper, adjusted her pillow, and listened. The girl above her, Uju, as she would later learn, was on a late-night call, whispering, laughing, soft upper-class giggles. She spoke fast, polished English, the kind of accent that belonged in Disney cartoons. Anulika turned to face the wall and closed her eyes. The first tear slipped out before she could stop it. She wiped it with her sleeve, and she made a quiet promise to herself that no matter what happened here, she wouldn't give them the satisfaction of breaking her. Anulika didn't cry again after that first night, not even when it would have been easy to. She woke up early, earlier than everyone else. The hostel lights were still off. The world was silent except for the buzz of a single mosquito trapped between her net and the window. She got down from her bunk slowly, washed her face with the small bowl of water she had fetched the night before, and brushed her teeth in the corner of the washroom where no one would call her out for using the wrong toothpaste brand. By the time the first bell rang, she had already swept her corner of the dorm, cleaned her shoes with a wet rag, and wore her school uniform. She didn't speak to anyone unless they spoke to her, and they rarely did. The girls in Dorm D4 were used to comfort. You could hear it in the way they walked. Quick steps, confident, like they knew someone was always waiting for them at the end of every corridor. Their lockers clicked open without effort. Their uniforms were crisp, and their beds were always made with tucked-in bed sheets that matched their pillowcases. Anulika's bed sheet was faded pink with small teddy bears, the same one she had used in primary 5. Her pillow had no case. She folded a scarf around it to hide the stuffing. No one ever said anything directly to her, but she knew. She knew from the way they passed around snacks without offering her, from how they laughed just a little too loudly when she walked by, from the silence that fell whenever she entered the room. It wasn't bullying. It was worse than that. It was being invisible. She carried her voice like something fragile, something she wasn't sure she was allowed to use. Even when she knew the answers in class, she waited. If no one else raised a hand, then she would speak, calmly, clearly, and then lower her head again. Teachers liked her. Of course they did. She was respectful and always prepared. But girls like Uju didn't care about classwork. They cared about who had satin bonnets and matching slippers, whose birthday came with cake and photo shoots. And Anulika, she was none of those things. 2 weeks into the term, the house mistress announced something new at morning roll call. Each student is expected to bring one item for the dorm's food corner, she said. We will be sharing them during cultural week. The list was taped on the dormitory wall. It contained items like milk, cornflakes, Milo, cabin biscuits, Nutella, sugar, and butter. Anulika stood in front of it for a while, reading every word. Then she walked away. In her locker was a small double-wrapped nylon her mother had handed her the morning she left. Just in case you need something to soak, her mother had said, tying it tight. It wasn't much. It was garri, yellow in color and already soft from the heat. She didn't have any of the other things. No cereal, no biscuits, not even milk. Her mother had said, manage the one the school gives you. The focus is your brain. So that night, while the others were busy labeling containers with fancy stickers, Anulika sat quietly on her bed and unwrapped the nylon. She poured the garri into the cleanest container she had, an old ice cream container, without label or sticker, just her initials, AO, on a masking tape. She placed it gently on the common table by the window and walked away. Nobody said anything at first, but by morning, someone had moved her garri container to the edge of the table, far from the rest. By prep time, it had disappeared. She found it on the floor beside the dustbin, upside down. The masking tape was gone. She didn't report it. She just picked it up, cleaned the bottom with tissue, and returned it to her locker. Later that day, when she came in from class, someone had left a note on her bunk, which read, "This isn't your kind of school. Stop trying so hard to belong." The note had no name on it, and it wasn't a handwriting she could place. She folded the paper in half, then slid it behind her Bible. She didn't cry, and she didn't mention it to anyone. She just sat on her bed and kept staring at her locker. It was a Thursday morning when Anulika finally felt the weight of being truly out of place. Not the kind of weight that sat on your shoulders, the kind that lingered in your throat, heavy but invincible. She had woken up early as usual. The bell hadn't rung yet. The dormitory was still dim. The corners quiet except for the creak of a mattress shifting as someone turned in their sleep. Anulika got up, tied her wrapper, fetched her water, and padded to the back of the dorm to brush her teeth. She used a small bowl instead of a fancy cup. The tap sputtered before flowing. She never rushed, she never made noise. She moved like she was trying not to disturb a world that had already decided she didn't belong. Back at her bunk, she sat on the edge of the mattress and rubbed the hem of her skirt flat with her palm. She had washed it the day before, dried it near the back bed, and pressed it under her mattress while she slept. It looked fine, not brand new, not the sharp pleats the other girls brought from home, already ironed with starch, but clean and quietly decent. Her shirt was the same one from orientation week. The collar had started to change color. She noticed it every morning now, no matter how hard she washed it. No one had said anything about it out loud, but that didn't mean they hadn't noticed. They always noticed things like that. She got dressed, tied her net, and began to sweep her corner of the dorm. It was during this, a quiet reading she had learned to enjoy, that a voice behind her casually said, "You don't have a deodorant, do you?" Anulika turned. It was Uju, still in her nightwear, a short satin set with thin straps and a matching bonnet. Standing at her locker, applying lip balm in front of the mirror stuck to the inside of her locker door. Anulika didn't respond. Uju looked at her through the mirror. You should try and get one. I can give you the name of the one I use. It lasts all day. There was no malice in her voice, just the kind of casual cruelty that came from comfort, the kind that didn't consider how words could bruise. Anulika looked down at her broom. I'm not smiling, she said softly. Uju shrugged. I didn't say you were. I'm just trying to help you. Anulika didn't reply. She finished sweeping, folded her wrapper, and sat down. She didn't cry, but she didn't move either. She just sat there, staring at the edge of her locker until the bell rang. That day at school, she spoke less than usual. When Miss Yabo asked her to read a paragraph during literature, she read it with her voice steady, but not with the same life she usually gave it. She didn't look up from the page. She didn't want to see the cruel eyes looking at her. During break, she didn't join the line at the canteen. She just sat down quietly at her desk. Later that week, the girls in her dorm started a game. A sort of what would you never be caught dead wearing. It was harmless at first. I could never wear those basic pink bathroom slippers some people are wearing, one girl said, flipping her braids over her shoulder. Another said, me, I can't tie a wrapper in the hostel. It's giving house help. Someone laughed and added, I saw a girl using sachet water to brush this morning. They all giggled, and just before it died down, Uju said, some people's uniforms are cream colored, not white. But as long as you're confident, Sha. Anulika said nothing. She went to the back of the hostel stairs and sat there for a long time, long enough for prep to start, just breathing. Not angry, not hot, just tired. She didn't try to fight for space in their world, but she kept showing up in class, always early, always ready. One afternoon, after literature class, Miss Iyabo called her aside. Are you alright, Anulika? She nodded quickly. You've been quiet, quieter than usual. I'm okay, ma. Miss Iyabo studied her face and continued. I just want you to know that you're doing well. Don't let anyone make you shrink. Anulika nodded again. She meant to say thank you, but the words stuck in her throat. So she managed a small smile instead. The harmattan wind came early that year. It slipped into the cracks beneath the dormitory windows and pressed itself against the skin, making even the oiliest faces dry and flaky. Girls wrapped scarves around their heads, rubbed lotion on their elbows before assembly, and complained about cracked lips in loud, dramatic voices. Anulika said nothing. She had long accepted that some discomforts were not meant to be solved. They were meant to be carried. She adjusted her socks and smoothened her skirt like she always did. Her white shirt, though freshly washed, still had faint shadows under the arms. No matter how many times she soaked and scrubbed it, the stains refused to go away, but she wore it anyway, with her chin up, her back straight, not in pride, but in calm defiance of what the shirt refused to become. In the last week of the term, her name appeared at the top of the academic ranking board, first position in the entire SS1 class. It was typed boldly, hung on the school notice board near the staff room. People stopped to stare. Some pointed their fingers at her. Others just nodded and moved on. It didn't cause a stir. Not really. This was St. Geraldine's, a place where being brilliant didn't matter as much as being wealthy. But still, it was there. Anulika didn't pause to look at it. She had already seen it early that morning, when the list was just being pinned up. She had read her name silently and then walked away. That evening, As she arranged her belongings in preparation for the end of the term holidays, she noticed that someone had placed something on her bed. It was a new white shirt, neatly folded and crisp. She touched it. The cotton was soft, the color was perfect, the tag was still attached. She looked around the dormitory. No one was watching her. No one said a word. The lights were on, but the mood was slow. Some girls were styling their hair. Others were packing their boxes. Someone was singing softly from the bathroom. She picked up the shirt, folded it neatly, and placed it in the corner of her locker. Not to wear it, but to keep it. She would return home, wearing her old shirt, the one with the stain, the one her mother had scrubbed and prayed over, the one that had followed her through silence, through whispers, through skipped sardines and locker jokes. She would wear that shirt home and walk into the compound, her bag in hand, dust on her shoes, her face bare, and tell her mother simply, "I did well," not for applause, not to prove anything, just to say it and mean it. As she lay on her bed that night, the light from the corridor casting thin shadows across the ceiling, Anulika rested her hand on her chest and let the stillness settle. There were no grand victories, no speeches, no sudden shifts, just the quiet dignity of having survived something no one knew she was carrying. The stain on her white shirt had not gone, but neither had she, and sometimes that was enough. Subscribe for more interesting stories.